promoting dialogue.
Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to NEWSLINK. Here are the top stories. ECOWAS Chiefs of Defense begin a two-day conference in Accra over the operations of the standby force in Niger. Nigeria's President Tinubu appoints 46 ministers to form cabinet amidst doubt by citizens. IOM announces a higher death toll from a shipwreck in Cape Verde. And the UN Health Agency WHO donates huge consignments of drugs and laboratory equipment to Liberia. Stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is a more edit with NEWSLINK.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Liberia and in Ghana. Well, let's start off with the anticipated meeting of the Regional Chiefs of Defense, which is underway in Accra, Ghana. Ambassador Abdel Fattah Musa, the Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security of ECOWAS, has justified the decision of the sub-regional body to send troops to Niger. Ambassador Musa believes Niger presents a golden opportunity for ECOWAS to send strong signals against the growing trends of coups in West Africa. The Commissioner further alluded that the ECOWAS has the unflinching support of Africa's mother body, the African Union, and also the United Nations. He was speaking during the ongoing ECOWAS extraordinary meetings of Chiefs of Defense Staff in Accra.
Why are people talking about Chapter 7 here, Chapter 7 there? When ECOWAS went to Liberia, Sierra Leone, we didn't ask for Chapter 7. We informed the African Union, we informed the UN. It's often done, in order to secure resources, access contribution, from the UN coffers, right? The heads of states are saying, that we are going to Niger with our own resources. Anybody who wants to help us, fair enough. There is a time you have to draw the line in the sand. Okay, the fact that we had 3 successful coups and no muscular approach was applied there doesn't mean that we should allow the domino to continue. UN has condemned the coup. They are supporting the actions of ECOWAS. UN, right until about a few months ago, I was the director for West Africa at the UN. Okay, the UN has 2 main blocks. You have the Secretariat, you have the Security Council. When the UN supports, it doesn't mean it is like an approval by the Security Council. The UN Secretariat has supported us, and we are working constantly with the Special Representative of the Secretary General for West Africa, which also shows that support.
Ambassador Abdel Fattah Musa is the Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security of ECOWAS. Well, still in Niger, the United States on Wednesday said its ambassador to Niamey will arrive in the coming days. Ambassador Kathleen Fitzgibbon's arrival, according to the State Department, is a signal of Washington's continued engagement with the situation in Niger. State Department Deputy Spokesperson Vandana Patel, however, told newsmen that there are no plans for her to present her credentials to coup leaders and that it is not necessary for the work at the embassy.
We are pleased to see that Ambassador Fitzgibbons was confirmed in late July after what was a year-long confirmation process. And we do look forward to Ambassador Fitzgibbons' arrival in Niamey. She is going there to lead the mission during a critical time and to support the American community and to coordinate on the U.S. government's efforts. What I will also be very clear about, Barbara, is that her arrival does not reflect a change in our position, and we continue to advocate for a diplomatic solution that respects the constitutional order in Niger and for the immediate release of President Bazoum and his family. And we remain committed to working with African partners to promote security, stability, and democratic governance in the Sahel. And Ambassador Fitzgibbons will be an integral piece of that when she gets to host in Niamey.
The United States Department Deputy Spokesperson Vandana Patel. And just before we leave the block of Nigeria-related stories, Ghana's largest Christian formation, the Christian Council, has strongly cautioned the government to hasten slowly in deploying troops to Niger. This comes after several groups within the public, including politicians, security experts, and civil society organizations, criticize ECOWAS' choice to send soldiers to Niamey to, among other things, restore law and order and reinstate President Mohamed Bazoum. From Accra, Mbila Lawson reports.
The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, while favoring the path of dialogue, gave the green light to an armed intervention against the soldiers who took power on July 26 in Niger by activating its standby force. Speaking to WADR, General Secretary for the Christian Council, Reverend Dr. Cyril Fayose, argues that the ECOWAS should further explore the path of diplomacy and dialogue since the military intervention can escalate the situation further.
The church is concerned because it's a very delicate and complicated issue. First of all, any form of military intervention can have so many repercussions, so many implications, not only in Niger, but in the whole sub-region. So it's not going to be just going in there, getting the military junta out and reinstating the president and then coming back out. It may be a protracted, a prolonged engagement. Lives will be lost. There may be repercussions even back here at home. People will flee the country and we will have to receive them, and so on and so forth. So I'm of the opinion that we should explore all peaceful options.
Samuel Okujetu Ablakwa, a ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament, speaking after closed-door deliberations on the matter, says the decision to deploy Ghanaian troops or not should be done by the law and in the interest of Ghana.
Our national interest must be at the center of any decision, our national interest. And don't forget Article 40C encourages peaceful resolutions of matters.
Meanwhile, the ECOWAS Committee of Chiefs of the Defense Staff will hold an extraordinary session on Thursday and Friday. Reports indicate that the meeting will be heavily focused on the Niger situation. Reporting for NewsLink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Atiewin Imbila Lawson in Accra.
Well, we do have one more story from Niger, and this is the United Nations warning that the crisis in the country could worsen food insecurity and urge humanitarian exemption to sanctions and border closures to avert disaster. The United Nations Humanitarian Agency, OCHA, pointed out that even before the overthrow of President Mohamed Bazoum by the military, the country had more than 3 million people in a situation of acute food insecurity. The WFP assured for its part that it would continue to provide aid to Niger despite the ongoing political crisis. The agency said that in the first week of August, it had provided food to 140,000 people in the country and life-saving treatment for malnutrition to 74,000 children, but warned that regional sanctions and border closures were greatly affecting Niger's supply of vital food and medical supplies.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. NewsLink continues.
Let's cross over now to Nigeria, where the army has issued a stern warning to all citizens in the aftermath of a devastating ambush that claimed the lives of over 20 soldiers in Niger, a north-central state. The military is cautioning Nigerians against aiding the cause of armed groups by spreading their propaganda materials, particularly social media platforms. Edward Gabwek, the Director of Public Relations and Information of the Nigerian Air Force, expressed grave concern over the increasing use of online tools by armed groups to disseminate their propaganda and solicit support. WDL's Manamar in Abuja completes the story.
Following the weekend attack on the armed forces via an ambush in a village in the north-central region of Nigeria, many citizens took to social media platforms with images and video clips of the victims. Reacting to the trend, Edward Gabwek emphasized the critical role that unsuspecting citizens play in enabling armed groups to gain momentum and carry out their nefarious activities. Gabwek urged Nigerians to be wary of sharing or promoting any content that could incite violence or aid the operations of these groups.
Nigerians should please desist from propagating some of these things they see on social media, because when you do that, you are only fueling the activities of these terrorists, and that is what they want. You begin to post all of these videos, post it here and there. That's just what they're looking for. You should stop being used as conduits for propagating some of the activities of these criminals. Instead, the energy you are using to propagate these things, you should channel it in supporting the members of the armed forces and other security agencies, bring information to us, help us gather intelligence so that we will use what we have to go after these people.
It is no secret that armed groups in Nigeria have been resorting to social media to amplify their messages and recruit new members. The ease of access and widespread usage of the different social media platforms have made it increasingly challenging to curb the dissemination of harmful content. Online channels have presented these groups with a powerful tool to reach a wide audience, radicalize vulnerable individuals, and gain traction. The army says by actively sharing and spreading these propaganda materials, citizens inadvertently lend support to their cause, thereby prolonging violence and endangering lives. The military's cautionary message seeks to raise awareness about these dangers and encourage individuals to exercise responsibility and patriotism when using social media, including by reporting any suspicious or potentially harmful content they come across to enable authorities to take immediate action to counteract these threats. For NewsLink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
In the meantime, Nigeria's president on Wednesday evening announced a cabinet of close advisors and political loyalists as it seeks to rejuvenate a faltering economy and respond to a crisis in neighboring Niger that has dominated the first few months of his term in office. Key among the appointment is investment banker Wale Edun as finance and coordinated minister of the economy in a sweeping role responsible for rebooting the finances of the nation. The appointment has gotten Nigerians talking diversely. James Japan completes the story.
Making the list of 45 ministers, the appointment is coming at a time Nigeria, Africa's biggest economy, is reeling as a result of the removal of petrol subsidy, which has made the cost of living unbearable for its citizenry. Many political watchers had expected Wale Edun to be appointed finance minister 8 years ago under former President Muhammadu Buhari, but he was overlooked. One of Tinubu's closest allies, he served as Commissioner of Finance in Lagos, Nigeria's economic capital, from 1999 to 2007, when Tinubu was governor of the state. But is this the dream team expected to bring a change to the face of Nigeria? Tochukwu Emmanuel Efemene is a political analyst. He says there is a lot at stake here.
So I don't think that these new hands will deliver like what we saw in 1999 with the kind of caliber of ministers we saw that came in, which were mostly technocrats. But I don't also want to sound like the conventional Nigerian who is always very quick to be dismissive about government policies, about people. I think this present administration tends to have a lot of things to want to prove, from legitimacy to the bad economic situation that they've seen. I won't say they've created, but through the decisions they made. I think there will be pressure on them to perform. I'll tell people, I said, the best thing you need to do for this kind of administration or this new set of cabinet ministers is to give them the next 100 days to prove themselves.
Tinubu, who has been criticized for the size of his 45-member cabinet, picked Mohamed Badaru, a former state governor, as defense chief at a time when the country is grappling with multiple security challenges and is playing a leading role in the response of events in Niger. Yusuf Tugar, currently Nigeria's ambassador to Germany, was named foreign minister as Tinubu confronts the first foreign policy crisis of his presidency in the wake of last month's coup in Niger.
James Japan filed that report. Well, let's come back now to Senegal, where in recent days the press has been reporting that political opponent Ousmane Sonko will be removed from the electoral roll. This follows his conviction on the 1st of June to 2 years imprisonment on a charge of corruption of youth. Sonko's party, which was recently dissolved by the authorities, is contesting his removal from the electoral register, claiming that it has not received any notification. Political opposition leader Ousmane Sonko has been in prison since the 31st of July and has since commenced a hunger strike. He is charged with citing for insurrection. While we remain in Senegal, as United Nations Migration Agency warns that more people are feared dead or missing from the boat accident involving several Senegalese nationals of Cape Verde. While it was reported on Wednesday that 38 Senegalese migrants aboard the vessel were rescued by maritime authorities, the International Organization for Migration, IOM, fears a project at least 60 deaths. The capsized boat had reportedly departed Senegal with the would-be migrants in July, according to IOM. Ogeberika brings us more details.
4 children aged between 12 and 16 were among the 38 people rescued after their boat capsized off the coast of Cape Verde. Senegal's foreign ministry had announced the rescue of 38 people, including a Bissau Guinean, from the boat. There were also reports of several deaths, but IOM spokesperson Safa Msali later on Wednesday confirmed a higher death toll of at least 63 people. Cape Verdean police in a statement revealed that it was alerted by a Spanish fishing boat that spotted the vessel on Monday, some 320 kilometers from the island of Sal. The Spanish Migration Advocacy Group, Working Brothers for its part, informed that the vessel was a large fishing boat which had left Senegal on July 10 with more than 100 refugees and migrants on board. Families in Fasboy, a seaside town north of the capital Dakar, had contacted Working Brothers on July 20 after 10 days without contact from loved ones on the boat, said Helena Malino Gazon, founder of the group. When the news of the shipwreck broke, the Senegalese population condemned the resurging irregular migration trend by mostly young people seeking better opportunities abroad and called on authorities to curb the menace.
Ogoberica reporting there. You're listening to NewsLink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar. Here is a reminder of our top stories. ECOWAS Chiefs of Defense begin a 2-day conference in Accra over the operations of the standby force in Niger. Nigeria's President Tinubu appointed 46 ministers to form cabinet amidst doubts by citizens. IOM announces a higher death toll from a shipwreck in Cape Verde. And still ahead, the United Nations Health Agency WHO donates huge consignment of drugs and laboratory equipment to Liberia. We do have our guest interview segment, the press review, and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
We're streaming live on wadr.org. The World Health Organization has donated a huge consignment of drugs, laboratory equipment, and other medical items to the government of Liberia through the Ministry of Health. The donation is intended to contribute to Monrovia's initiative by providing quality and affordable healthcare services to the people. WDL's Darlington Popper has the report.
A few of the materials donated include mental health medication and computers, among others. Presenting the donation, WHO representative to Liberia, Dr. Peters Clement, said the donation is intended to support the country's healthcare delivery system, adding that the sector was negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic.
This donation is to support Liberia's health system. We are recovering from COVID. The health system was impacted heavily because of COVID. It is time to start building it back. And the supplies are symbolic. Day one, strengthen the management of people with severe cases of COVID, whom we don't see now. The second, supplies medicines for those who treated health workers who worked in the intensive care units.
Receiving the donation, Health Minister Dr. Wilhelmina Jella appreciated the WHO, stressing that the donation will go a long way in helping the health sector. She attributed the progress made by the ministry to continuous support from the WHO and other partners.
From the description of each one of the items, it can tell you that those are things that's going to be very helpful in improving a lot of the situation. Just take, for example, the ICU equipment. So this is a continuation of the items that we will add when we open the infectious disease unit. It will be even better than the one at JFK. So any pandemic that come, at least we will now have a running ICU that can really help.
Liberia's partners have pledged their commitment to helping the country address constraints facing the country's health sector. For NewsLink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Pogba in Monrovia.
This is the newspaper review. Stay on top of the news. Get the most important stories with added insight and concise review.
This is the newspaper review.
Well, we head back now to Accra to join Atevin Bila Lawson for the newspaper review.
Greetings from Accra, Ghana. Welcome to the newspaper review for today, Thursday, August 17, 2023. Let's start with the headlines in the Daily Graphic newspaper. The screaming headline, Ahead of ECOWAS defense chiefs meeting, democracy must reign in Niger, according to security experts. Then some banner headlines: government vindicated in Ejapa deal, according to the New Patriotic Party, and that's after the ECOWAS court ruled in favor of the deal, or rather against the plaintiff in this case. And then another banner headline: tourism fiesta December in GH to spread outside Accra. That would be an interesting one to look out for towards the Christmas vacation. Let's now look at the headlines in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. The screaming headline: 5 billion Ghana cedi bribes paid in 2021. The police topped the chart with token collections. That's according to a UN corruption report on Ghana. Then some banner headlines: be relentless in advocacy for prudent management, use of petroleum revenue. That's according to the Deputy Minister, and he's telling the Public Interest Accountability Committee, PIAC. Then another banner headline: ECOWAS security chiefs meet in Accra today. We did bring you an update on that on NewsLink this morning. We'll be following that story to bring our listeners the very latest on that meeting. Then we have another banner headline: we need radical leadership approach to election 2024. That's according to Dr. Kuto. And Ghana needs $522.3 billion to implement SDGs by 2030. And there's a picture there of the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. So those are the headlines in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Let's move to some other stories. The Daily Dispatch newspaper, very busy front page. The screaming headline: ECOWAS court rules Ghana's Ejapa deal is legal and government can implement it. That's a story we brought to you sometime last month on NewsLink. Then another banner headline here: Team Baumia launches star 202 hash for supporters to contribute. This is surely towards his ambition to become the next president of Ghana. Another banner headline: evidence of the late captain retired Kojo Chikata to the National Reconciliation Commission. And then Baumia's tabulation of over 100 achievements of the NPP government. So those are the headlines in the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Let's wrap up now with some business news. The Business Finder newspaper, the screaming headline: Ghana eyes $1.5 trillion mice market, plots to become the hub of meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. Then a banner headline: EcoBank hosts junior savers and invest in diversity, equity, HR practitioners are told. Those are the headlines in the Business Finder newspaper. And that's how we end our newspaper review for today. My name is Atiewin Imbila Lawson. Back to you in the studio.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is a guest.
Well, we'll take you back to the most talked about news in Nigeria, the cabinet formation of 46 ministers. Now, this is coming amid concerns by Nigerians who are facing the consequences of the removal of petrol subsidies. With cabinet members made up of new and old hands, Nigerians are expecting a quick turnaround between now and the next 100 days. Well, I guess is Dr. Oshigbeson Sultan Lukman, publisher editor-in-chief, the Daily Dream newspaper, Abuja, Nigeria.
What jumps out for me when I saw the list of the ministerial nominee was a quest to balance, the list between the politicians, and specifically politicians who worked for the emergence of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the presidential candidate of the APC and for his triumph in the presidential election proper. So I could see, this notion of balancing between satisfying the politicians, if you like, paying back his political IOUs, and then, bringing in, technocrats.
Okay, so now 46 ministries. Isn't this too many looking at the course of governance in Nigeria?
The size of the cabinet is a function of constitutionality and, if you like, political consideration. Don't forget, the Nigerian Constitution requires that each state of the federation should produce at least one minister. And since we have 36 states already, whether you like it or not, you have 36 ministers. So the top up of 10 ministers, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't really, change much. More so with the task that we have at hand right now. And if you look at the list of ministries, I mean, it shows that we have a lot in our hand to do. Over the years, I think we have coupled up so many things under, this notion of trying to save costs, or the optics of running, a lean government and all of that. But then, if you look at the list, what you see is that you lump too many things up.
All right, so finally, does the cabinet meet the expectations of Nigerians who are yearning to see a quick change?
It's difficult to get two Nigerians to agree on an issue. So the question of whether this cabinet meets the expectation of Nigerians, the jury is still out there over this question. What I can only say is that the cabinet should hit the ground running.
Well, our guest has been Dr. Shigbeson Sultan Lukman. He is the publisher and editor-in-chief, the Dream Daily newspaper, Abuja, Nigeria. Well, thank you here for Sport News.
Hello there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Let's begin this sports news with basketball as Cameroon secured a place in the semi-final in Lagos at the African Olympic pre-qualifiers after beating Tunisia 83-70 to win Group B. Tunisia began the game on forefront, leading 21-19 going into the halftime. However, they could not sustain the lead as Cameroon regrouped with a massive 23-8 surge in the last stanza to win the game. African teams are battling for available places for the Paris 2024 Olympics. In football, Nigeria international Okechukwu Azubuike has suffered a major injury. It has been reported. Turkish club Saika Razespor have confirmed that Nigerian midfielder sustained right knee anterior cruciate ligament rupture and cartilage injury and is expected to be on the sideline for a considerable time. Azubuike, who won one cap for the Super Eagles, left the Nigerian Professional Football League since 2015 to move to the Turkish club. And the Confederation of African Football, CAF, has reportedly validated the status of Ghanaian outfit Ampem Dakar Ladies Football Club for the Continental Club Football Champions League. The African Football governing body confirmed Dakar Ladies as Ghana's sole representative for the Women's Champions League after the club fulfilled CAF club licensing criteria. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And we've come to the end of this edition of NewsLink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks for listeners in the Gambia via Hot 104.3 FM, Numi FM 94.0, and Veritas Radio 102.9 FM, and in Liberia on Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Liver County. We also thank our listeners in Ghana on Radio Pod 95.1 Savannah region and on Royals FM 14.7 Wenchi. Christian Mukudi has been on the console and Mustafa Sek has been streaming. Well, let's continue the conversation on Twitter, Instagram, RWDR News, and Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
News, talk, music. Get it all 24 hours on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar.